ensure the integrity of your multi-purpose exploration suit is at 100%. Remember, efficiency first. Godspeed.
Welcome to the beautiful world of... Actually, don't know the name of this planet yet. You can see down below it is called Massage 2 Alpha Bravo Bravo or something like that. I don't know if they're randomly generated or not, though I'm pretty sure I've seen that exact same name before on other playthroughs. So this is the planet we were working with. This is the first of 3 environments that we can work with. And I like this one a lot because it is extremely lush looking. Makes me feel kind of sorry that we're about to put factories up, but that's how the game works. Hopefully there's some way that we can, preserve the environment and rectify that a little bit later. So you can see that the flora is pretty standard, just some grass and trees and bushes and whatnot, but the fauna, these animals, are pretty wild. So we've got a little saber-toothed looking guy down there, and a tall giraffe elephant whale thingy, as well as that ray flying in the background. It is pretty awe-inspiring, and I wanted to leave that first bit with no dialogue so that you could appreciate just how well crafted everything is and how intense it feels to really get out of that pod. So our first task is that we have to dismantle the pod. They make a point of saying that the Fix-It Corporation is very into ecological impact and preserving resources through recycling, so hopefully that comes back a little bit later. Oh, that is another one! Now, I have had a few run-ins with some of the smaller guys, but these ones seem pretty docile. They haven't given me any trouble so far. But even if I do run into some problems, I have this little zapper, which will allow me to deter some enemies like that. Although it is interesting calling them enemies because they are just animals and they're just acting on instinct, so can't really blame them for that. So first thing we need to do is start looking for resources. This is a survival game, kind of. It's more crafting, but the more you see what goes on, the more you'll realize that this is just like all those games that you've played before, but with an additional factory automation and production element to it. So let's go ahead and take a look around to see if we can find any iron. This is our scanner tool, and we see there are a couple nodes over this way. Up top we can see the distances. This seems to be 140 meters away, which is pretty close, and on the way we can pick up some leaves. I can hear one of those flying guys. They are amazing to watch, and everything about the environment is just impressive. So I'm thinking that's the iron down there. I don't want to jump all the way because there is some fall damage, though you can see that... Uh-oh. So we're going to have our first run-in with one of the locals, and this guy... I'm having bad memories, little PTSD flashbacks, because I was killed very quickly by one of them in an earlier playthrough. And, oh, feels bad to kill him because we're kind of the invader here. But as I was saying, I ran into one earlier. I didn't know how this zapper worked, so he just ended up killing me. Then when you die, you respawn somewhere, you drop your box, but you don't have one of these zapper things back, so I actually just kept getting killed because I had no way to protect myself. So let's check this out. This is limestone here. That's one of the later materials. We can harvest it manually, which we have to do early on, with our little flathead screwdriver. Nothing to do with that just yet, but it'll be nice to have it just to show you how some of the resources work. So let's get on over to this iron here. I assume this is the iron. Yes, it is. As well as some over there. We can fine-tune this later to scan for different elements, but right now we just need the iron. So I wish I could just kind of stun them, because I do feel bad about killing them. I assume that we're killing them because we are able to harvest part of their bodies afterwards. So let's move on to some iron ore. Now, we harvest this, I was going to say quickly, but we have nothing to base that off of. So, I mean, this is the speed at which we harvest it. Keep an eye on that because we'll be upgrading that very quickly later. So first thing we have to do now to start our factory is build something called the hub. This is like your home base, your HQ, where everything is built from, though nothing really has to be attached or connected to it. When you start unlocking components... Oh, there's another one of those guys. The visuals and animations and everything in this game are just really well done. It doesn't feel like a small production. It really feels like something that has a lot of potential and is backed by a large AAA studio. But enough about that. Let's start building this HUD. So we need to build on somewhere that is relatively flat, because that's going to make automation and attaching components of the factory together a bit easier, but we do want to stay close to some of these resources. So, oh, what is that over there? Little critters? What are these little critters? That's funny. Wonder what they do. They're pretty neat. I kind of want to shock one, but at the same time I don't want to hurt one. Okay, that's good. It's funny just exploring some of the stuff around here. So, since we are near iron, I am going to place the hub around here. This looks pretty flat, so let's put it here facing... What's a nice open area? Facing this way. So here it is in our build menu. All we need for this is the recycled material from the drop pod, and we can drop this here. You can see that it builds itself. Just kind of a structure at this point, or a framework, but it gives us access to some other stuff like this crafting bench, and this will allow us to build some of the more advanced materials, starting off with the iron ingots. So here we can refine the iron ore that we got earlier just by holding this and producing some ingots. That then allows us to produce some plates from the ingots and rods from the plates, or ingots, I guess. None of that's really helpful right now. We need an objective to figure out what we need to harvest and what we need to do. So at this hub terminal, we can find out what we need to do next. So these are the tiers which will show us how to unlock more buildings, a very classic survivalist progression game, this mechanic. And the first thing we have here, these are the things that we are going to unlock, our rewards for this hub upgrade 1, but we can select this milestone here to start tracking it, and you can see that's tracked on the top right. So to get to that level and get the rewards, all we need to do is provide the raw materials in this hub terminal. And for that, this is iron rods. You can see that we already made an impact on the progression towards that via harvesting this ore and then turning that into ingots, turning that into rods. And then once we have 10, we will be able to get to our next level. So these go pretty quickly. This should be enough to get those 10 rods. So let's get some more ingots. This is pretty quick, but you'll see the automation is really the key here. It's not necessarily faster than you are, but the fact that it does it on its own is unbelievable, and I absolutely love that about these type of games. So now that we have the iron rod, let's just move that into the terminal. We have everything that we need, and we can upgrade the hub. So it begins to, well, sort of upgrade itself. We now have a slew of new things. We have some personal storage here. This is essentially our power generator called the biomass burner. A little bit more on that in a moment, but another thing that we can craft is the crafting bench, and that is going to contain something extremely helpful for us that will essentially mine for us. So let's put this somewhere nearby. It doesn't have to be anywhere in specific, but I like to put them places that makes sense for the terrain. So since I'm not sure if we can remove that, I'm going to assume that we can. I know that there's like dynamite later, so let's just put this close. We can always demolish it later. And those things just come in, who knows from where. But now see, we can't buy a second one, but we can research some of the stuff going on. So with, what am I looking at here? What did I just make? Oh, no, that was completely the wrong thing. I did not mean to make the craft bench, but that's okay. We can very easily dismantle it and get a good amount of resources back. So let's go to what I actually wanted to make, which is the equipment workshop. You can see it would have been difficult to mix those two up. They are quite different looking, but we need a little bit more materials to make that. Just 3 more of these plates and 3 more of the rods. Luckily I have a bunch of iron ingots, so no problem there. Wow, those sounds are pretty creepy. But at least I'm able to identify that one as just that fly guy, which doesn't damage us. Just minds his own business flying around with his posse. So we needed 3 of these and 3 of these. Easy enough, right? Let's get back to that equipment workshop and plop that down somewhere flat. Hopefully it doesn't clip through these trees too much. And that is the one that we wanted, because we can go here and build the portable miner. You can see this requires some more advanced materials, wire and cable. These would be created by harvesting copper, so that's going to be our next task. But one of the things that we can do here, which is extremely helpful, is that we can track it by right-clicking portable miner and add it to our to-do list. So over on the right, we see exactly what we need to get that done. So let's check over into our scanner and mine, or look for some copper. One over there, not too far away. So this one seems to be the closest. We'll make our way over to that. I found another enemy here who is spitting some yellowish acid stuff at us. He's extremely accurate, and it seems like he's actually leading me while I was a little bit farther away. Having a little bit of trouble here. Hopefully I can get him. Okay. So we have alien organs to add to our alien carapace. Ooh, a lot of rumbly noises. I've also seen this slug over here, the glowing slug. I'm going to try and harvest that. Now, I tried to do one earlier and ended up getting killed. So let's see what this one is all about. Takes a little bit to grab it, but now we have that. Will be nice to analyze that a little bit later. We have an analysis module that is unlocked a bit later when you upgrade your hub. So we're going to have to hold on to this until we unlock that and can throw it in the system to analyze it. I'm now coming up on the copper node. You can see that has a nice teal coating, and that oxidation layer seems to be guarded. So we're going to have to dispense of him, unfortunately, because I don't want to be vulnerable while I am harvesting this. Well, sorry, bud, but I gotta get this ore for some unknown reasons. And I say that because it's somewhat unclear what the end game is here. I'm excited because this game is in early access. They have a lot of potential. They've laid the groundwork for something, for really anything. Your objective could be to build a city. It could be to make a giant gun. It could be to create the world's biggest rubber band ball. It's just unclear. So this whole building phase, building up towards heavily automated factories, is exciting, but the end game is not entirely clear. Here are some berries that we can pick up. These berries are helpful because so far they're only one of 2 ways I know to regenerate health here, so we just have to eat those up. You can see our health gets almost back to full. But since we are back to the hub, we can now proceed with making some more advanced materials. We have that copper ore, so we can make some copper ingots. Once we have those copper ingots, we can move on to some copper wire. And then once we have that wire, we can make some cables. So just need another piece of wire, and then a couple iron plates. Once we have those, we can... Oh god, what is happening? The shadows are a little bit concerning. I thought we were getting attacked by some sort of hologram. But has that guy gotten closer? There's another green glowing slug here. I'm wondering if I missed him or if he actually just appeared there. I'm going to harvest him. I assume that he's special. Oh man, there's a lot actually. There's one over there, one over there. But the fact that I haven't seen a whole lot and that they take a while to harvest brings me to believe that they are important. So I'm just going to grab that before returning over here for our final iron plate. Once we have that iron plate, we can go over here and make this portable miner. So, what this miner will do is that it will, well, mine for us, essentially. So I'm going to bring it out, equip it in my hand slot, and throw this down onto one of these iron ore deposits. Now, watch closely because these animations are actually pretty amazing. Just the intricacy and ingenuity with which that deployed itself, I found extremely fascinating. Its original legs actually ended up turning into the drill, and these eyes as well are almost animated and show some kind of emotion. Whether or not that was intentional, I find it extremely compelling. So you can see here, if we open it up, it will harvest one ore per second, one iron ore per second, and we can come over to this and extract that whenever it fills up. And as far as I know, you cannot deplete these deposits. Later we can build a larger drill that will actually be able to transport the iron ore via conveyor belts to a smelter, but for now we have to just visit these portable miners and take the material back to the hub ourselves. So let's head back here, and we're just going to keep on making some more advanced materials so that we can unlock some later stuff. While it's entirely possible to craft anything you need through this crafting bench, automation is the key. So we're going to start off with one of our first buildings that will help us to automate the process, and that is the smelter. It looks a bit like this. You can see that I already have the resources for it. And you should also note the 3 colored indicators on it. This orange box to the left pointing in, the teal box to the right pointing out, and the electricity input on the top. So the reason that it has these directions to it is because the game is centered around creating these assembly lines, these processes which are linked by conveyor belts. So it's important to place this in a place where you can foresee adding an input on one side and output on the other. So since it's not really clear how I'm going to do that yet, I do believe that I'm going to use some of these nodes here, which will harvest the ore automatically and transport it to this smelter. So I'm going to put the input side over here, somewhat like this. Wait, there are 3 nodes here. Wow, this is going to be an incredible amount of ore that we're going to have access to. So I'm going to try and space these out a bit more. I wish that rock wasn't there, but we can kind of build around it. Let's throw that right about here. So we have our first smelter. We are going to need to power that up. You can see this red post here tells us that it has an issue. Right now we can tell that that is probably power. So let's head over to this biomass burner. We can go over into here and use some of the leaves that we have to make it run. And that's going to work just fine, but you can see those only burn for 0.8 seconds each. What we can do is we can actually turn that into biomass, which is just another crafting process. Unfortunately, we do not have that unlocked yet, so we're going to have to wait until we can get that in a future hub upgrade. So just leaves for now, but we have to connect these two. We can do so by running a power line from one to the other. So it seems like I am low on cable. That is okay, I can build that pretty quickly. And that should be sufficient to run the cable from one to the other. So now that this is ready to go, you can see that it is running and everything is perfect. Although we do not have a way to put the material in automatically, we're going to have to place it manually. So I have some iron ore here. I just drag it in there and you can see it begins to process that on its own. So one of the things I want to mention while we're here is just how well built the game is, how streamlined things are. So you can see that I put that up with relatively no issue. It wasn't buried between menus. The hotkeys on the bottom work just fine. You can see that if I go over into the building bar here, or the building menu, and I just hover over and then hit a button, you can see it binds it to the hotbar on the bottom. Just things in this game work extremely well, and it feels so good and so exciting because there is limited functionality in the game currently, but the fact that it is being built on such solid roots makes me so excited about what this game can become in the future. With some help from the smelter, I've gotten enough iron ingots to produce the iron plates, iron rods, and the copper wire. Well, the copper wire obviously comes from copper, but I have enough materials to upgrade our hub to the next level. So let's put those into the hub terminal and upgrade. So along with the hub looking a little bit more substantial, we now have access to even more things. Now I kind of forget what it's been telling me to do because I have muted the helpful voice that comes in. So let's see what we have and what we can produce. So here is the constructor. A very cool piece of technology. Well, I don't know if the technology is really all that interesting, but is extremely helpful. And that will be in the next episode. Sorry to leave you on a cliffhanger like that, but I want to try and divide these episodes into smaller, bite-sized nuggets that don't drone on and take up a whole half of your day. So thank you for watching this first episode of Satisfactory in early access. Now, please like the video if you liked it. Since I don't run ads or do anything else with YouTube, that is really the #1 way to support, along with commenting and sharing the video and the channel with your friends. So just as a synopsis, we have landed our drop pods somewhere over there, fought a couple of the local wildlife, came down here, put our hub in this nice area. Should be defensible, I guess, because it's got a back to the wall there. That green slug is mocking me. I'm going to have to go harvest that at some point, which sounds evil since it is an animal. But we've built a couple structures and are on our way to automating this factory. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.